Hi, Bronte. This is Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Okay. Hey, I had a personal Zoom meeting earlier in the day on my laptop, and I said, "Hey, Luge, can you hear me?" And he says, "Yeah, unfortunately, I can see you too."
Oh, no.
I said, "I got to remember that one."
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah, if any of the board members come in with
yeah.
with their cameras on, you can throw it at them. Hi, Jody.
Well, hello. I'm glad. I was wondering what was going on here. Couldn't hear-
Yes, we can hear you just fine. I'm going to promote you to panelist, okay?
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Hey, Dave, this is Sam. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Sam.
Okay. Dave, I've got your presentation. I'll be doing it. Let me just put it up. Um, it'll be in Power PDF. You didn't have any kind of action slides or anything where you needed the PowerPoint, did you?
No, I do not. It's fine if you want to do it in
Okay.
PDF. I didn't have any special visuals or any fly-ins or anything, animations. Okay.
Yeah, it comes through in the same quality.
Understood. Thank you, Sam.
Okay. There.
You want to go through them all? Yeah. Make sure they're. What time's it start? 5:30?
5:30 sharp.
Okay.
Jody Pierce will be going before you. You will be the the longest presentation for sure. I think they will be actively engaged with you on this presentation. So, yeah.
Can you go back a couple slides? You don't mind?
Let's see. Okay.
Okay. That one and one before it. I just want to make sure they were there. Awesome. Keep going back just a couple more. I just want to make sure. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay.
Hi, Sam. Can you hear me?
Gotcha, Tim.
Great.
Hey, Sam, this is Jody. You've got mine ready to go too, don't you?
Sam, did you hear Jody?
No, I was trying to ask him to repeat.
Okay, he's asking if you have his presentation up.
You have my presentation too, don't you?
Yeah, I just ran through it here. Stand by.
Okay. It's pretty long, so
Whoops, I'm glad you asked. So we started.
You had me
There's
in reverse?
page 1 right there.
Okay. Okay, very good. I've got a hard copy too, so.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thanks, sir.
Anthony, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can.
All right.
Aaron, can you hear me?
Hi, Sam. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Clearly.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Dan. Mic check.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Oh, super. Hi, Gretchen. Hi, Gretchen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Very clear.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Hi, Tony. Mic check.
Hi, Sam. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Hey, Sam, I have a question for you. if you're there.
Go ahead.
We're kind of in the company I work for, we're doing this huge internal thing with Earth Day for this year. And I've told them about my association with what we were trying to do last year. And they said, hey, well, do you have any photos or anything you can send us and blah, blah, blah. Did we get any photos of anything last year that have any of us members in it that you can remember?
Tim can help me on that, and our communications staff will have some of that.
We
Go
had
ahead.
we had some photos of the students that were doing the tree inventory at Horizon Park.
Okay.
And there may be a few photos of trees being planted at Horizon as well. But, you know, after the COVID hit, everything kind of just fell off the cliff there. So.
All right. And I also, I guess, forgive me if this is a little bit of bragging, but I told them that Natalie and Ryan and I were nominated for the Volunteer of the Year. Is there, other than the email we got, is there any kind of an official notice about that saying, identifying Natalie and Ryan and I for that?
You know, I'm not sure. I can try to check with our communications staff and find out.
All right. If there's not, no big deal. They just want to put this in a company newsletter about our being involved with Earth Day. If we have it, great. If we don't, no big deal. But thank you.
Ryan, welcome.
Hello. Thanks.
I'm not sure if I heard anything, Ryan.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Natalie, mic check for you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
I had to redo the Zoom install again.
Yeah.
Stressful.
I had an update as well, so you're not alone.
This is Tony, Ryan, and Natalie. I did as well. So it's kudos to us for signing in early, so we get that out of the way.
Yeah, maybe some people show up late because of that if they tune in right at 5:28 or so.
Steve Schlosser, can you hear me?
I think I'm unmuted. Yes, I can.
Good, you're coming through clearly. Thank you.
All righty. By the way, you realize that it required updating Zoom in order to get in this meeting.
As is customary.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an ongoing thing, folks. So just kind of
Okay.
plan to do that. We get updates every couple of weeks anymore. So, but the criteria to be able to get into the meeting is to have it updated. So sorry it took somebody a little bit of time, but next time I'll have Sam just kind of remind everyone that we need to go ahead and do a pre-check on the Zoom updates.
Okay. I am muting.
This is Sam for Bronte. Bronte, okay, I was seeing an attendee, but no name, and that's gone now.
Okay. We'll keep an eye out for it if it happens again.
Hi, Tammy, welcome.
Oh, I guess you didn't hear me say hi. Hi.
Oh, there. Now we can hear you now. Thank you.
Yay. Here we are again, another month. My birthday month.
Bronte, we have somebody attendee with just a phone number, which I don't recognize. 520 area code.
Uh-huh. Number ending in 0100. Do you mind unmuting yourself and just letting us know who you are, please?
Sam, this is Dave Bennett. That might be Manuel Castillo, our outreach manager. I will just double check on that.
Yes, this is Manuel Castillo with the City of Scottsdale.
Okay, thank you. We just wanted to identify the caller. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are just about at 5:30. Are we ready to get going soon?
Sure, whenever you'd like to, Chair. We've got a quorum right now, so we could start. You want me to go ahead or do you want to call the meeting to order? We got to make sure that they're recording. Bronte, are we recording already?
Yes, we are, and we are streaming to YouTube, so ready
Okay.
whenever you are.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Scottsdale Environmental Advisory Commission's monthly meeting that is being held virtually today, Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. My name is Natalie Chrisman-Lazar, and I'm your chair. It is 5:31, and I call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Chair Lazar.
Present.
Lazar. Vice Chair Coletta. He was on the line a minute ago. Can you unmute yourself, Tony?
Present. Sorry about that.
That's fine. Thank you. Commission members, David Abranovich, I don't believe has been brought on the line yet. Commissioner Tammy Bossy.
Maybe unmuting.
Might be muted. Yeah, Tammy, are you muted?
Sorry, I thought I had unmuted. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Kukulik, I have not seen him show up yet. We'll keep an eye out for him. And Commissioner Johnson.
Here, thank you.
And Commissioner Slosser.
Yes, thank you.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Our first item of business, I'll ask first, do we have any public comments?
We have not received anything through the email, so no, we do not tonight.
Great. Great, thank you. So our first item of business is the approval of the regular meeting minutes from March 2021. These were all sent out to all of us. Does anyone have any comments or concerns?
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes for March.
I second the motion.
So we have Tammy's motion to approve the minutes and Steve's motion or second of that motion. Can we go ahead and have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Chair Chrisman-Lazar.
Approve.
Vice Chair Coletta.
Approved.
Commission members David Abranovich, who has not yet made the meeting. Commission member Tammy Bossy.
Approve.
Commission member Walter Kukulik, who has not yet joined us yet. Commissioner Ryan Johnson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Steve Slasser.
I approve.
Okay, we have approval of 5-0, so the motion passes.
Thank you so much. We have an exciting packed agenda. The first item is a presentation from our own Jody Pierce regarding the Chaparral Park turf tests plots trial and some lessons learned. Please join us, Mr. Pierce.
Good evening, Chairperson Lazar and members of the commission. I appreciate the opportunity to present this to you this evening. My name is Jody Pierce, and I'm a Parks and Recreation Manager for the City of Scottsdale. Tonight, I will be discussing the results of a fertilizer test plot that we completed at Chaparral Park in the summer of 2019. This does look familiar to you. I know that Sam did present this to you 2 months ago as I was absent for that meeting, and I do appreciate that, Sam. So we had a few things that we learned during this test plot. As you can see, I don't want to dive too deep into it. We can ask questions later if need be, but we did primarily on the 2 soccer fields that are north of Jackrabbit, just east of Hayden Road there. Split them in half as the light poles being the center point of those, and did a test plot on the west side that had no pre-emergent and no and did have synthetic fertilizer. The east side, which is 2.7 acres, was no pre-emergent and had organic fertilizer on it. So we started this early in the summer. In 2019, we did have Mighty Mud Mania out there. So we did park cars on it and shut the water off for most of the month of June. So as you can see some of the pictures, go ahead and go to the next one there, Sam, if you would. The pictures are May 13th of 2019. We're just starting to grow grass as the temperatures warm up and the soil becomes 65 degrees or warmer consistently. We can start growing some Bermuda grass. And that's what we're looking at is a Bermuda grass that we have in most of our parks throughout the city. Soon after Mighty Mud Mania, which was June 17th, is the middle picture there. As you can see, we're running irrigation and we're starting to green up. But it's very difficult prior to that because, like I said, we do dry it out and park cars on that during Mighty Mud. The final picture in this presentation is on October 8th. We're about to shut the Bermuda grass down for the winter time, but we felt like we had a great stand of grass with both of those applications. So the summary of it, if you go to the next one, please, Sam. Both the east and west plots is how we divide it there, produce some healthy and safe turf for our users. We didn't see a big difference in the quality of turf. And both plots stayed relatively weed-free. Now, we didn't pre-emerge, and that's primarily why we would pre-emerge a field or any part of the park, is to keep some of those weeds down and reduce any post-emergent applications that we would have to spray within the park. So we usually don't spray a lot of, apply a lot of pre-emergent on our fields because they usually stay pretty healthy with an irrigation system and a fertilizer system. And usually good turf doesn't have many weeds. So we did realize a lot more time was spent on the organic applications. We had to do them every 2 weeks as opposed to once a month. We were able to do with a lot of the normal fertilizers that you would buy at your local hardware store. Fertilizer cost as well as time ended up costing us probably 3 times, right at 3 times the amount as the normal fertilizer would. Our product cost, obviously the prices are going to be different because the size of the plots were different. So if you go to the last piece there, the cost per acre, right at $365 for labor and product to do it on the west side, which is the primarily synthetic fertilizer. The east plot was a smaller one, but the cost ended up being $1,033 an acre. So both worked. As far as the budget impact, obviously the organic was going to be a little more expensive, as well as the staff restrictions that we have on some of that. So that was a big, it was kind of a cool little test plot that we did. It kind of gave us an apples to apples and really focused on those. We had great products. I think there's good products out there on both sides, but I think from a budgetary standpoint and staffing restrictions, I think right now, to be fiscally responsible, we're probably going to continue to do with most of the regular fertilizer that we get, like you could get at your local hardware store too. So Right now, we are using, we've taken some steps internally, and we do use some fertilizer that has a blend with some organic, although more expensive. We think the combination of them in July on some of our Bermuda grass in the north end of town really gives us a great green color, as well as promotes that growth that we're looking for on that Bermuda grass. So we're experimenting with some things, not on a scientific level, but we're just, some people like those products, and we continue to look at what we can get the best bang for our buck, as well as the less toxicity that we can do. We try to manage, our budgets as well as we can, and do less toxic if we can help it. And then, as you see on the bottom, there's a note that the green team, I believe Sam brought that up last time, is I'm part of the green team. We do it from Sustainable Scottsdale. I think there's a few of us that are even on this call that are part of that, and how we can make Scottsdale better and be more sustainable. Part of that is with the pesticide responsible party, implementing the best integrated pest management, get some inventory controls on our what we do for fertilizers and pre-emergence and post-emergence, as well as doing some research on what's the less toxic alternatives that we can use from fertilizer or anything else we use. So I didn't want to get in too deep with it. If you have any questions for me, I am more than willing to answer what I can or get you the answers if I don't have those with me this evening. So I open it up to any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pierce. Do we have, I know that we had some discussion at our last meeting. Tony, did you have specific questions for Jody before I ask mine?
I did. Thanks, Natalie. Hi, Jody. This is Tony Coletta. Thank you for presenting and the information. Was there, I was kind of looking at the photos. I saw some painted lines in there. I'm assuming those were soccer lines. Can you tell from the picture which side was which side? That's question A. And question B, did you guys, did you notice any difference like in durability or the I guess the lasting of either brand of turf?
Yeah, go back to the pictures, Tony, and then thank you for the question there, Commissioner Coletta. It looks to me as if it's the west. On the top picture would be the west field, which would be the synthetic. On the second picture, the June 17th is to the right side of the light poles. That will be that is the organic. And again, on the 8th would be the west side, be the left side, the bigger one, was synthetic. So to answer that question, that's where those three pictures come from. And could you repeat that the second part of your question, please, Commissioner Coletta?
Did you notice any differences in terms of the actual quality of the turf and I guess the durability, not considering Mighty Mud Mania, but just like in numbers of games that were played, did you see any distinction or any differences in the durability of the turf in either case?
Yeah, Commissioner Coletta, we did not really see a big difference. We closed these fields for a lot of the time from June 17th or when Mighty Mud's over, primarily to, I believe it is first part of September. So we closed that and then we beat that up every year from September all the way till we could start growing grass in May. So the Bermuda grass itself, we try to get it as healthy as we can, knowing that wintertime it's going to be dormant and we're going to continue to beat those up. So as much cushion as we can put them on and and sponginess to them, that's what we're looking for. But we didn't see any big difference on the wear pattern. It's kind of hard to tell because you have different leagues, different users out there at different times. So they're not the same users and not the same wear that you're going to get on the west field compared to the east field. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Pierce, we have a question from Miss Tammy Bossy.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think this is wonderful that we did this test, and I would just ask, so I know we obviously have to be budget sensitive. So what is the process, and I'll ask this of all staff or anyone else who wants to jump in, to help us assess the budget in light of the fact is what is the cost of having more toxicity in our spaces? And because, clearly if we're just looking at it purely from dollars and cents, the way it's been presented, I would like to know what the thoughts are about continuing, but I know we're always very budget sensitive. So, what would be the appropriate way to evaluate this from a larger, more holistic perspective, and that there are definite costs when we are not factoring in the human health costs of the types of pesticides that we're using. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Chair Chrisman Lazar and Commissioner Bossi, this is Jody here. The fertilizer that we are applying to all of our ball fields and all of our parks is not regulated under an EPA guideline like any herbicide or pesticide is. We do the best we can from a budgetary standpoint. Obviously, we all go through the budget, probably in November as we present our budget to council. I believe that's going to council soon or has been the preliminary of how we regulate our budgets and how we look at things starting July 1st. So we're really planning 9 months ago, 8 months ago from the time our budget goes into place. So from a general fund standpoint, this is where our funding comes from Parks and Rec. We're given a specific budget with zero-based budget that we start from the ground up and budget accordingly. Obviously, there's not unlimited amount of funding, but there are expectations of what these fields are to look like from our user groups, from our public, and from our staff themselves. So we kind of weigh both of those. Like I said before, we are utilizing some of these blends that are more organic, an organic blend, because it does give us what we feel like is a great product in some of that grass up north. We do have some hybrid grasses, some Bermuda, some 328, as well as some 419. It's a different type of Bermuda grass we have in the northern part of town. Now, most of them in the south end, including Chaparral Park, is primarily a common Bermuda grass and reacts differently than some of the hybrids do. So we're kind of, every year we continue to play with options. Each one of my park leads take and do the research of what they can and can't afford within their budget. And we're restricted because of that. But we do the best we can, trying to get some organic as much as possible because we feel like it's important that we do that from an environmental standpoint. And we just kind of weigh the two options at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. We have another question from Commissioner Steve.
It's approximately $600 per acre to use the complete organic product, including labor and material. How many acres of land do we manage in the city of Scottsdale? How many acres does Park and Rec manage?
Yeah, Chair Crispin Lazar and Commissioner Schlosser. From a park standpoint, I believe there's about 1,500 acres worth of park. Now, from a turf standpoint, that's a different story. And I think that, don't quote me on this, but I think overall from our parks, we're in 500 to 600 acres of just of grass. Now, most of this would be used on our ball fields where the quality is higher. And obviously the play is more intense than it is in passive parts of the park. We try to get it 6 pounds of nitrogen per acre if we can on our synthetic fields or on our ball fields. Some of that is just, we use the organic from a mow is all the clippings is equivalent to one application of fertilizer. We utilize that as part of our 6 pounds of nitrogen.
Okay, so basically we have about 500 acres times $600 per acre, or $30,000 would be the additional cost for going completely organic. Is that approximately the right number?
I think, didn't he say 15,000?
I think he's talking about the difference between the cost of the organic and the cost of the synthetic, the additional cost.
Okay, let me clarify. I heard Cody say that there are 1,500 acres of park, but only 500 or 600 acres that are turf. And the difference between our current strategy and an organic strategy is $600. So if we're talking 500 acres times $600 an acre, that's $30,000 of additional cost. I'm just trying to get a confirmation of that.
Steve, I think you're looking at 300,000 instead of 30,000. $600 at 500 acres is $300,000 difference.
Okay, I stand corrected, but but that is the approximate additional cost that would be required if we went to full organic for all of the turf within the city.
Yes, and like I said, some of that is going to be, we could do some organic and it wouldn't be as high of 6 pounds of nitrogen in the passive parts of the parks. Primarily that 6 pounds of nitrogen is going to be on our ball fields, softball fields, soccer fields, where we utilize them heavily and continue to beat those up. But there's a safety measure involved with the playability of those facilities.
That's okay. I just was trying to understand the potential impact of going to a full organic solution for the turf areas within the city.
Yes, that is correct, though. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
We have time for maybe a couple more questions. Walter, you haven't had a say. So Commissioner Walter, if you could ask your question.
I joined a little bit late, so I wanted to make sure you knew I was here. And then also, I think when you look at these things, and this is just wearing my business hat, and this is kind of my consultation, I think you look at a lot of things. Ideally, with the organic cost per acre, you're going to have less potential liability out there. It seems on Facebook or social media or advertising, there's a lot of chemical lawsuits out there. So I think that's a consideration that I would ask the green team to consider. And then also, as part of this, if you're going to look at it a more holistic thing, you could also look at turf usage and watering usage. Are we, where maybe if you remove turf to reduce water usage, that could also pay for on an organic cost per acre increase. So I think my recommendation is if you do something more beyond this test, you look at it holistically about water usage, other risks outside of just a pure cost standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. And my point to this that I raised previously, I know that we did not include pre-emergent in this particular study. However, some of the benefits associated with, I would imagine, a more organic approach would be that over time, hopefully you would not need as much pre-emergent. And I think that we can all agree that the pre-emergent is probably a little bit more toxic than even the synthetic fertilizer that we're talking about. So, I mean, the test was useful, but I don't know that it truly evaluated some of the benefits of organic approaches. And in addition, as some of the other people have raised, I mean, we are not really accounting for some of those benefits in just a pure, how much it took to buy the actual fertilizer and how much it took, what the costs were to apply it. I think that this accounting may have been a little bit, it didn't really account for some of the things that we've raised here. And I think that was kind of our overview of when we looked at the results, where our concerns were.
And I thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Tammy, do you want to add something real quick?
Yeah, I just was trying to understand. Okay, so thank you for Steve for quantifying this. So now, if we were to look for $300,000, what we want to be clear on the process and where we would need to go to evaluate that. And that's different from, as you said, the stated concern about incorporating the other aspects of the costs that were well pointed out previously. But I'm trying to understand from staff, from a budgetary standpoint, we obviously vote with our dollars and we spend money on what we think is important. So how far back, where do we need to unroll things to enable the Parks Department to have the sufficient budget, because clearly that's not the case at the moment, to be able to accommodate some of these priorities, if, and where would those need to be defined, how far up the chain, trying to get clarity on that so we would know where would be the appropriate place to possibly have that conversation.
Yeah, this is Jody again. Tim, would that be something that the commission could recommend to the council? Is that something from a budgetary standpoint? Is that something they could recommend to them for additional funding?
Yes, that's what it would take probably, because what is the budgeting process is that we put in what they call evaluation or decision packets into the budget when we're trying to make changes and adjustments from the prior years. Like Jody said, we do a zero-based budget to start with, and then we then have to justify everything that we're bringing forward. And so there would be a discussion about the balance of that funding versus other necessary funding for other programs, as well as the parks as well. And obviously, one of the parts that is not really showing up very well here is that, as Jody had brought forward, there's an additional need for additional staffing. And that is a different side of the budget that gets a lot more, I guess, interpretation and criticism about is that if we're increasing positions in the city, there's got to be a really good reason why we're doing it. And we've had that problem in the past. So it is in the budget process. It would be needed to be discussed. I think at this point, we're probably a little bit late to the dance. They basically began to present the budget. Jim Thompson, our city manager, has presented his first draft of the budget to the city council. They're viewing that at this point, and they'll be making recommendations. There's a final number that's going to be agreed to in June. There's a preliminary number before that that sets the top cap of how much money would be allowed for the top budget. And then after that, they can basically whittle it down a little bit more if they'd like to. So I think you're looking at both FTEs as well as funding. And proposals from this commission would need to be routed through the city manager's office, most likely with the understanding that the Parks and Recreation people and Assistant City Manager Murphy had an understanding of what was being requested. So I think that tries to answer the question, I believe. Are there other questions about that process?
I just further clarify, I don't think we'd be talking about this year's budget. Because it clearly, as you outlined, takes some time and some forethought. But I just wanted to understand if the commission decided that was something we wanted to put some energy into, understand the process a little bit better. So thank you for that explanation. I'd also just remind the commission that when we started this whole conversation in 2019, we were very much trying to advocate for the city trying a process through Beyond Pesticides or some equivalent type of organization who specializes in this for a very low amount of price for cities who have an interest in really taking the pest management to the next level. And we went through the process and ended up doing this test pilot, which was fantastic. We appreciate all that effort very, very much. But I'm wondering, at some point, can we please revisit the conversation and look at the experts that do this, in addition to our own experts, which we certainly have within the city, but also people who specialize in organic pest management. Maybe we could revisit that if it is the wishes of the commission in the future to see if there's some way to try that process once again. So Jody, my last question is, now that you've done that, is there some thinking that we're going to expand the use of organic blends? It sounds like you have some commitment to doing that based on this.
Yeah, Commissioner Bossi, I don't know as if there's a complete commitment to go all organic, but I think we look at products as that works for us. And like I said, we're trying some different things. To say we're going to jump, both feet in, tomorrow to do it, I think would be an overstatement. But sure. I think we look at things on a yearly basis, depending on our budgets and where our money's allocated and how we can go ahead and what's our need and what's our end result that we're looking for. But every year is different, and I think each individual supervisor of those parks have different challenges with their turf that may work well with some organic, and others maybe need something quick with the synthetic. So I think we continue to look at that, but I don't know if there's a commitment right off the bat because of the monetary as well as the labor situation that we're going to be able to do that immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. I appreciate your time, and I would really like to continue the conversation, and definitely encourage you to reach out to us as resources and a sounding board. We do have quite a few members of the community that have come in and actually had concerns about the types of pesticides that we are using in our parks. And I just want to make certain that you understand kind of the impetus for why we're very concerned about it. I mean, we do have people that are concerned because, I mean, we have a lot of people using these facilities, and they are in close proximity to the products that you apply. And so we want to make certain that that is forefront in your mind, and that if we can partner with you to help provide any resources, expertise, we would love to be able to do that. Thank you so much.
Well, I thank you for everyone for the opportunity to present to you, and I'm open to any suggestions. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Thanks again.
Thank you. I think we're going to move on to our next item so that we're able to kind of stay on time. We have a presentation here from Mr. Dave Bennett with our Solid Waste Services group. This is, I think, part of our ongoing updates on some of the sustainability initiatives. And if we could go ahead and welcome Mr. Dave Bennett. I see we have our presentation up here. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, and good evening, commission members. Again, my name is Dave Bennett. I serve as the Solid Waste Services Director for the city. Tonight, I will give you an update on our progress with the Solid Waste and Recycling Strategic Plan. If you could, please, Sam, go next slide. Thank you. There are 8 policies in this plan, with the exception of policy 6. I will speak to the other policies. Anthony Floyd, who serves as the city's senior building consultant, will speak to policy 6. Also, if time permits, I will give you an update or a brief update on food waste diversion and current recycling markets. If you will, next slide, Anthony, or excuse me, Sam. The first policy that I'll speak to is our progress with increasing diversion at city facilities, special events, and public spaces. Next slide. Thank you. For fiscal year 18, 19, and 20, we have been doing solid waste, waste audits at each of the facilities listed below. An audit consists of us inventorying the number of waste and recycling containers at each of the sites. It also consists of us weighing all of the waste and recycling containers to determine the initial baseline diversion rate. Once this process has been completed, our outreach team then educates the users at this facility on what they can do to be better recyclers. So after a month of doing this, then they weigh the containers again and see if any improvements have been made. Each year, our team goes back and monitors each of these locations. If you could, next slide. This slide represents some of the facilities, previously mentioned. Overall, most of these facilities are doing a pretty good job and are well on their way of meeting the 2030 diversion goal. Next slide. Thank you. This year, we are focusing our efforts on the water campus, fire stations, and city parks. In regards to the water campus, our staff removed some of the containers and replaced them with larger containers to meet their cardboard needs. However, the packaging inside these boxes is hurting our overall diversion numbers and the misplaced metal. This metal is coming from field employees and not finding its way into the proper containers. So that's really having an effect on the overall diversion. Next slide. Thank you. This graph represents all 16 fire stations and our baseline measurements. As you can see, a few of the stations are doing a great job, but a few of them are underperforming. Next slide. Thank you. This graph represents our post-education measurements. Some of the stations that were performing well dropped slightly, and some that were underperforming have improved quite well. So as a side note, Station 607 was recognized for their efforts. They are just 13% below of our 2030 goal. So they're doing a great job. Next slide. The biggest challenge that we have at these facilities is illegal dumping. Our staff has added signs to deter this activity. Also, our communication team has recently met with the fire leadership team and gave them an in-depth report on each station's performance and what they can do at each of these stations to increase our overall diversion. Next slide. Thank you. We recently just did a baseline measurement at for the city parks. In this instance, we are going to go do something a little bit different. We're going to focus our efforts going forward at Mountain View Park and work with the Parks and Recreation Manager, Jody Pierce. We're going to leverage Jody's experience and knowledge at each of these parks, figure out what we can do a little bit better, and then use Mountain View as a model at all the other parks. For example, when we put these containers in some of the ball fields and all that, we'll try different types of containers, measure each one of their effects, and figure out which one's working well, and then kind of scale that to the other parks. So that's our plan going forward with the parks. Next slide.
Excuse me, Mr. Bennett.
Yes,
I'm sorry
sir.
to interrupt your presentation. And this is really directed towards Sam. The slides are overfilling my screen, so I only get to see a fraction of them, regardless of how much I try and reduce the size of the slide. Is there a way of adjusting Sam's screen so that it transmits a full, or am I the only one suffering from this problem?
Not experiencing that.
Repeat that, Ryan.
I'm not experiencing the problem that he just articulated. I'm seeing a full screen, full slide.
As am I.
As am I.
Okay,
Commissioner,
then it's a problem on my end. Sorry to interrupt.
Commissioner Schlosser, if you're using the Zoom download on a PC, there's up at the top, there are options for the screen size of the presentation, and so you might want to try those. Thank you.
Okay, I will continue if we could. Sam, could you move to the next slide? Sam, are you gonna, next slide, please? Can anybody hear me? There we go.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. So let me see where I'm at. One of the programs that we started late last year, around July of last year, was our trying to divert green waste at some of our larger city parks. As you can see, Scottsdale Ranch Park is leading the charge in this effort. Jody is also helping us in this area as well. Our current challenge is finding locations where we can avoid illegal dumping and not having staff handle this material more than once. Next slide. Thank you. One of the special events that our team has a strong presence at is Canal Convergence. We have a great partnership with the Public Arts Group, and it shows by our diversion numbers. This year, we hope to eclipse our 2019 diversion percentage, which was tremendous. If you see the 93%, that's basically 0%. We are a zero waste event. So if you have time at this year's event, please stop by our booth, and we would love to give you a tour on how we support this event. Next slide. Thank you. Starting this July, our outreach team will be rolling out a monthly newsletter to employees Each month, we will spotlight a department within the city that is supporting our diversion efforts. We will also include tips on reducing one's waste footprint and include did you know recycling facts such as where our recyclables go and what they are turned into. Next. Moving on to policy 2's objective is to increase our single family diversion rate to 60% by 2030. This diversion rate includes the weight of all materials collected in our residential curbside program. Next slide. Thank you. Through our curbside collection program, we divert approximately 24,000 tons of recyclables each year, and our diversion rate is hovering around 27%. Some of the challenges with this measurement are more people each year are relying on the internet for the news rather than newspaper. Plastic containers continue to get thinner, and more manufacturers are moving away from glass. So just keep that in mind on future progress with regards to the materials that we're collecting in our curbside container. Next slide. Thank you. As you probably already know, our residents do a great job of separating their recyclables from their garbage. Scottsdale has the cleanest recyclables in the valley. You probably have heard that. To maintain our current diversion rate in clean recyclables, we use several social media platforms to spread our recycling awareness messaging. Each year, we conduct several classroom presentations at public and private schools. Also, with the online ordering boom to handle the additional cardboard demand, we do offer additional recycling containers at no cost to our residents. Moving on, next slide. Thank you. Similar to policy 2's objective, policies 3 objective is to increase multifamily diversion at multifamily diversion rate to 30% by 2030. This diversion rate includes the weight of all materials from apartment complexes and condos located in the city. Next slide, please. Thank you. The box on the left shows last year's numbers related to city's commercial services program. This is the city does offer this type of collection at all businesses and condos and complexes throughout the city. Last year, this program serviced 1,130 accounts and collected 18,000 tons of garbage and 675 tons of recycling. Of those 1,130 accounts, 14 accounts are multifamily complexes, and they are diverting around 9% of their recyclables. The majority of the complexes and condos located in the city are picked up by private haulers. On all 19 companies last year did report their number of recycling tons they picked up on an annual basis. This added up to be around a 6% overall diversion rate. Please keep in mind that the city does not require private haulers to separate their multi-family tonnage from their overall tonnage. So that would be a really difficult task for them to do based on how they operate. They come from different cities that surround Scottsdale. So at this time, we're not asking to do that. So that's our best guess based on their overall percentage that they bring in. It's around 6% diversion rate. Next slide. Thank you. This slide gives you a comparison of what the city charges its customers for monthly recycling collection and the average rate that our private haulers charge. The container sizes and rates highlighted in yellow is what the city's multifamily customers are choosing to meet their recycling needs. On the far right of this slide is a quote from one of our private haulers that services several apartment complexes in Scottsdale. Besides the fluctuating cost and contamination, I would let you guys know that there's another concern out there, and that's the lack of infrastructure. Many of these communities weren't designed or have the space for additional front load containers. So costs and contamination are a concern, but infrastructures as well. Next slide. So going forward, we will continue to offer our customers discounted recycling rates, continue to discount the private haulers licensing fee. That fee for normal trash, for somebody to pick up trash in Scottsdale is around $900 per truck. For them to pick up recycling, to have them do that is $50. And we plan on increasing the number of drop-off locations in the city to knowing what's going on, jump that number from 7 to maybe add 3 or 4 locations here in the middle of Scottsdale. So moving on. Thank you. I have just a few updates on policy 4, mainly with our canal bank containers and a resource page that is currently in development. Next slide, please. Thank you. We do have recycling containers along the canal bank and in a few downtown locations. We also place containers out for the culinary and arts festival events and offer free recycling at places of worship with the provision that we can list this as one of our public drop-off locations. Next slide. Thank you. The container that is pictured is part of a project we did with the Scottsdale Public Art. The project had a local artist design a trash and recycling container for the canal bank surrounding Solari Bridge. A total of 8 side-by-side containers were designed and replaced the existing containers. During the 2019 and 20 canal convergence events, we did measure the effectiveness of these containers, and all of the results were positive. We did see a dramatic decrease in contamination and usage. The previous containers were hard to find, weren't well lit, and it wasn't clear which container was designated for recyclables. Moving on, thanks. So moving forward, as we look to add containers in the downtown area, we will certainly consider the canal bank container design when doing so. For our downtown businesses that are looking for avenues to recycle their glass, food waste, and other items, we are developing a resource page that would list the companies that currently recycle these materials. The goal is to have this resource page done by June 1st. So once that's done, I'll share it with your chairperson. Next slide. Thank you. For policy 5, I will give you an update on our household hazardous waste program and what we're doing to expand this program. Next slide. Thank you. Each year, we collect around 96 tons of this material. Some of this material is recycled, and the rest is buried in landfills that are permitted to accept this type of waste. Next slide. Thank you. In regards to expanding this program, starting this July, we are increasing the number of monthly collection appointments from 200 to 250, and considering adding an additional yard event to meet the demand. Also in May of this year, we are doing a study at our transfer station that's pictured to your right there. The study will look at incorporating an existing building to a permanent household hazardous waste drop-off facility. This facility and how it operates, hours, days, and that will be similar to the town of Gilbert and the city of Mesa drop-off facilities. Next slide. For updates on policy 6, I will now hand it off to Anthony. Anthony, if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Just briefly, I just want to talk about some of the efforts to address recycling in buildings, and as a result of building construction. Is something that we've been addressing as a part of our green building program for 22 plus years. And we've always required job site recycling as well as infrastructure in the building to accommodate recycling and to encourage it. Next slide, Sam, please. This is it here. So for construction and demolition waste, we were requiring not less than 35% of non-hazardous construction waste to be diverted from landfill. We've been meeting this the 35% through the International Green Construction Code, which we adopted a number of years ago. And we're going to propose raising that to 50%. So as we move forward, we're going to expect more construction under the Green Construction Code, particularly as we look to make more of these provisions mandatory in the code to get more commercial and residential projects to require the 50% diversion. And then secondly, next slide, Sam, please. And I'll just skip over these details. We are requiring a construction waste management plan because we do want to know how the contractor is going to proceed and manage the process before we issue the building permit. So we want to get that information before the permit is issued, so we have the responsible parties. And then I think there's just one more slide after this. Nope, I guess not. Okay. The final part, which I mentioned, is the on-site recycling. And we require pull-out bins from the kitchen-based cabinets. This has been a standard feature of kitchen cabinets for several decades. And we've been getting this on single-family homes through the Green Building Program since 1998. And then also for multifamily, we're requiring that for the apartment buildings and condos to have the pull-out recycling trash bins within the cabinets, and then having recycling chutes and trash chutes part of the infrastructure, and then also trash and recycling rooms, and then finally the refuge enclosures outside the building for pickup. So we're just trying to build it into the infrastructure of the buildings to make it easier to facilitate waste recycling for multifamily and commercial buildings.
Anthony, my apologies for not having that slide included. I'll work with Tim to have that included and recorded. Appreciate you doing that. For policy 7, identifying opportunities to divert material for alternative uses, I will share a pretty good story that we did. The group at Westworld is now doing with regards to their horse manure. Could go to the next slide. Thank you. Prior to last year, this facility managed approximately 3,600 tons of horse manure and was landfilling all of it at a cost of $130,000. In December of last year, an RFP was sent out for the disposal of this material. The RFP did require that this material could not be landfilled and needed to be handled in a sustainable manner. 2 companies did respond to the solicitation. A company located in South Phoenix bid $11 per cubic yard and would use this material in their green organics composting program. The company that won the bid $0 per cubic yard. And yes, you heard me correctly. Going forward, at no cost to the city, this company now transports all of Westworld's manure to their Glendale nursery, where it is used to grow plants. So it's a great story. They did a great job on that, and I thought I'd share that with you. Next slide. Policy 8, I will update you on our efforts to divert green waste that is collected in the brush and bulk program. And I'll also give you an update on our plans to divert green waste that is being collected by commercial landscapers. Next slide. Over the past 3 years, the overall tonnage collected in this program has risen 35%, and unfortunately, the annual green waste tons diverted has dropped to nearly 0. This is due to the increased tonnage demand. Crews no longer have the time to run the streets twice or at the transfer station separate this green waste from the bulk items. Next slide. To meet the demand increase, to meet demand and increase our green waste diversion efforts, next year, this fiscal year coming up, we are planning on adding another crew, truck, and tractor. In doing so, we're hoping to get back to our 20% diversion range. That's the goal by adding this equipment and employees. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, in May of this year, we are going to do a study at our transfer station to incorporate the household hazardous waste drop-off facility. In the same study, we were also looking at transforming existing space, and you'll see it to the on the far left of that picture. It's our container repair area, transforming this space and looking to allow our green waste, the people operating green waste landscape companies in Scottsdale to drop off their green waste at this site. If the study does conclude that the site supports this type of activity and we can double the amount of tipping floor space, we should be in a great position to meet our future green waste diversion goals. Before I move on, I just want to check with Tim and Sam. Do I have time to give an update on the food waste and recycling markets? It shouldn't take too much time. I'll be quick.
Please do. I think that this group would like to hear that, please.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Can you go next slide? Thank you. With regards to food waste, last year and this year, we did a study to see what cities have food waste diversion programs and identify companies that process food waste from the residential and commercial waste streams. Next slide. Okay, due to time constraints, I'm not going to go through each one of the cities and their updates. However, in our research, Mesa seems to be the most promising lead for our future outlets, our needs in the future. So they recently met with the Department of Energy to secure needed funding for processing equipment. They said the meeting was very positive and are waiting to hear back from them shortly. In the meantime, Mesa has offered to give us a presentation on how they plan to collect, process, and create energy from food waste. When this presentation takes place, I plan on inviting the commission's chairperson attending this meeting. And just real quick, they at their water campus, they do have an anaerobic digester, and that's how they plan on processing this food waste. So again, if we do have the presentation, I will invite the commission's chairperson. Next slide. We did find one company that is currently processing residential and commercial food waste. That company is Recycled City, and they currently service around 2,200 residential customers around the valley and have a handful of commercial accounts. At this point in time, due to their capacity and permit, their permit does not allow let's say if we collected material and we drove it over, their permit would not allow that. So in the meantime, we plan on diverting our residents and businesses to this outlet via the resource page that we're currently developing. So moving on to recycling markets, Sam, go next. So thank you. With regards to recycling markets, they do continue to improve. The top line on this graph represents what Scottsdale pays the city of Phoenix to process our recyclables. The orange line represents the revenue of commodities sold. The way our contract works with Phoenix, they charge us a processing fee and subtract the revenue received from the sale of our recyclables. The blue line represents what we're currently paying per ton for the city of Phoenix to process and market our materials. So it's moving in a positive direction. It's right now just below $30 that we're paying per ton, and it's going to be closer to 26 here probably in our next quarter. Moving on to the next slide. And my apologies, this slide is still a work in progress. My goal was to have our City of Phoenix representative list all of the commodities they market for us, then list the region of the country or world this material is being transported to for final processing, and include the price at which it's being sold for. I think this information is important for a multitude of reasons. People often ask us where our plastics are being recycled, where do they end up? and what is their value. So in the near future, I'm hoping we can say, hey, your ones and twos, which are your plastic bottles, they're being recycled in Guadalajara, Mexico, and they account for 15% of our blended rate of revenue, recycled revenue. Once I do have this information, it shouldn't take long. It was last minute. I do plan on filling this and keeping this updated and sharing it with you, the commission. So with that said, that's my update, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. That was very informative. There's a lot going on there. I just wanted to confirm, Sam, do we get a copy of this presentation I know you had a link to it, but I mean, can we download the actual presentation?
The presentation is linked in the agenda, and it's also in file form on the SharePoint site in the, it'll be in the historic section under April.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not. So I just want to make certain. A lot of information here. So I really want to have some time to digest it. We do have a question from Commissioner Walter.
Thank you so much. This was a great presentation. So very informative. It hit on a lot of issues that I have some personal interest in. A couple comments that I'll just make. I think what you're seeing at Westworld with the horse manure is just a small sample of what you'll start to see with organic waste. In my full-time job, we finance projects that create waste to energy out of horse and animal manure in general. And what we've seen is those horse manure waste streams or cow manure waste streams are actually worth millions of dollars in larger quantities. So it just, I think definitely keep an eye on the value of organic materials. Even green waste in some markets is starting to have economic value. The only other comment that I'd like to make too is it's great seeing that policies around, to increase recycling, but I would definitely have the city start to look at increasing its purchasing or creating a policy to have a certain amount of its products be made from recycled materials. The biggest issue facing the recyclables industry is there's not enough demand for recycled materials. And so I would, in parallel with this, I think it'd be interesting to see if the city would create a purchasing policy to create, or encourage recycled content. And it's either purchasing policies or building code or enforcement policies. There's a lot of way that you can create policies to encourage recycled content. And that's probably the biggest challenge facing the solid waste services industry today. So thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioner. Commissioner Tammy, you have a question as well?
Thank you, Chair. I actually have 10 questions, but let's see how I can narrow it. First one is, I won't do that, I'll wait to see who else has questions, but help us visualize the process for getting green bins in the residential space. It should be everywhere, but we'll start with residential like other cities have.
Did you say that question was for Tim, or did you?
For Dave, yes.
That's a good question, Commissioner Tammy. There are difficulties in doing that. One, for having the room to add an additional space for that container. The other challenge is that you see in other cities that we've studied is to run that truck and to pick up the green waste. It's really not that feasible as far as cost, and they experience a lot of contamination. When the way we're doing it now and what we plan on doing in the future, I think is going to be the best way to handle green waste for Scottsdale. You'll have pretty much zero contamination the way we're going to do it in the future, as far as allowing the commercial customers come to the transfer station. But however, us being able to bring it to our transfer station relatively cleanly, but then using the expansion of those bays to eliminate any bulk items that may be in it, and then direct it to the Salt River landfill where it is processed.
Well, what percentage of our waste is green waste, would you say, in the residential world?
Well, the only way we measure it right now is where it's coming out of our brush and bulk program. So it doesn't go in our barrels. I think there's been a few studies out there. I'm not sure the exact percentage. I can get back to you on that. It would just be a guess for Scottsdale, an idea of what that percentage is.
When you say we don't have room for the bins, do you mean where?
So, Commissioner Tammy, we hear in my department, I hear a lot about, people just struggling, wanting to have their extra recycling container and having room for that. So to task residents to want to have an additional container for green waste, that would be a challenge. But as I stated earlier, I don't, in the city's best interest, as we discussed here, the direction that we're moving, I think that's in the city's best interest.
Well, what about those there's some people that pay extra to have a green bin, like I would do, and like Phoenix is doing, and like, maybe there's just as many people that would complain that we don't have the green bins than those who complain they don't have room, so they don't have to have one. I mean, it's such a waste. I just find it just, yeah. Anyway, it concerns me that we're not having a real robust conversation about how to utilize our green waste at a higher level. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson, do you have a question as well?
Thanks, Chair. I am a customer of Recycled City, and I'm a proud customer. I've been with them for more than a year. They offer a great service for food waste and composting. They pick up a bin from my front porch every Friday. And it's a terrific company. He's an ASU grad, and keep that food waste out of the landfill so it doesn't generate methane. My question is for Mr. Bennett. What we've just seen, the presentation is really nice. I'm just trying to get an understanding of what, is this the plan itself? Or is this an outline of the plan? Or is there an action that we should take to say that we like this so it goes to the next step? Or I'm just trying to get a handle on the process here. Thank you.
Commissioner, are you regarding the plan in its entirety, or the food waste, talking about food waste diversion?
No, I'm sorry. What you just presented to us, is this the actual plan?
This is the Commissioner. This is the actual plan that is. I'm not sure if it was voted on by council. I believe that Dan might be on the call, but this is the one that we are currently following for strategies in each of the areas identified.
Okay, great. That answers my question. So this is, it maybe has already been approved by council. We just we don't need to take action.
Correct. We're not. I was not looking for any actions.
Okay, thank you.
This is just to serve as an update.
My understanding that this is the strategic plan that the city has. Mr. Worth, I think you have your hand up.
Yes, Chair, members of the commission. There's not been a formal adoption action by council, although I did present this to council as a work in process twice in 2018, 2019, as part of our rate presentation. And the feedback that we got was very positive from council. Feedback we got from the public was positive. So we've been treating it as though it is a fully adopted strategic plan. And what Dave is doing is just giving you an update on our progress in each of the policy goals that are incorporated in that plan. No action required. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? I don't see any other hands up. I did want to just, I guess, ask Mr. Bennett two things. The first is, I know I've heard from businesses that I frequent in Scottsdale that the option to recycle in their businesses isn't available to them, and I'm not certain if that's true or if that is just their understanding. Is it basically per commercial development, the particular landlord at that particular place gets to decide whether or not they can recycle or not?
Chair, commission members, yeah, that's correct. All of the companies that are licensed in the city of Scottsdale have outlets. They do have recycling outlets. A few of them have MRFs, material recycling facilities. So yes, not only they have the option to choose our services or go with one of the private haulers. So as I mentioned before, it comes down to costs, concerns about contamination. But the big thing out there is for, in our entertainment district, in our apartment complex, is infrastructure, having the ability to have a container out there where that material can be collected.
But do we require that all businesses, I'm not talking just about, your apartments, but say stores or other commercial establishments, that they recycle?
Chair and commission members, we do not require, that is not a requirement for them to recycle.
And why don't we?
That is not in any of the ordinances to require that at this point.
What would be the barriers to do that?
That would be something that council would have to look at and see if that would be achievable.
Mr. Worth, you have your hand up. Certainly you have some insight into this.
I think Dave really covered it. It would be a major requirement to put that on businesses that don't have that requirement now. It'd be a council action that would require it. I anticipate there'd be some pushback. It was a possible action that we identified as we developed the strategic plan. But we've not heard any interest from council in actually going forward and implementing that code change to date. A recommendation from the commission could get the ball rolling.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bossy?
I lost my internet, Chair. Was that recap real quick on that? Was that a question about requiring businesses to recycle?
Correct.
Okay, great. That's wonderful.
It basically, at this point, it is not something that the solid waste department is able to do on their own. They do need support from council in order to be able to better support that. My last question for you, I'm sorry, is how can the commission better help you make it more effective for you to meet some of your policy goals? What is the top thing that we could help you with?
Chair and commission members, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that. I think what we're doing tonight, the dialogue, the discussion, and hearing some of your guys' your questions, that's the start. As I believe Tim might have mentioned, or Jody, we do have a green team in the city. We report each month on what we're trying to do in the city and some of the objectives. So just me meeting with you guys tonight and giving you an update on all these policies is a good start. And if you have any advice or outlets on possibly, I think one of the chair commission members was involved with waste to energy for manure. If keep us apprised of what's going on in the market. I definitely keep abreast of what's going on in each of the areas. But that would be a start. If you have ideas, communicate them to the commissioner and he'll feed them to me and we'll look at them. So that would be the start.
Thank you so much. Tammy, you had your hand first raised.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would just like to encourage us. I know we had a robust dialogue in a couple years back with the department on the solid waste plan and with all the other priorities. Some of that input did not get completed as I understand it. But just in general, I would like to encourage us to be more robust in our goals for percentages. Based on what other cities are doing, we are behind the 8 ball in my observation for our goals on our percentages that I'm observing in the plan. Because we've got Phoenix with 0 waste goals by 2050. And ours in general across the board are substantially lower than that. So I'm not sure how that dialogue might be opened up. And again, it's always, of course, budgets and other considerations, but I would hope we would be an advocate for that at our commission level.
You so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Steve.
Well, I want to compliment Dave and both Daves. 2 years ago, when this was a conversation, the strategic plan really had very little in it. And now to see, the various policy statements being fleshed out and percentage diversion rates being captured within a reasonable period of time, 2030. I mean, we can do a lot, but what we can't do is social engineering. And, until we can get a community that embraces recycling and is serious about not contaminating waste streams. No offense, Chair, Commissioner Bossi, but we can create any number you want, but whether or not we actually have people who comply with that is going to be the issue. I know that in my conversation with Dave Bennett about green recycling, because we talked about an experiment that was run during the canal convergence. The biggest challenge that green recycling has is the person who's making the decision what to put into that recycling container at that moment. And because of turnover in food establishments and restaurants, that knowledge doesn't stay put. So I think we have a very positive program going on here. I think that as time moves forward, and as I said, we've come a long way in just 2 years. I think that then we can be more aggressive with our targeted numbers. But Scottsdale is not Tempe, and Scottsdale is not Boulder City, Colorado, or places where environmentalism is strongly embraced. So I think the division has done an excellent job in laying out its program. Particularly pleased with the diversion and the construction material recycling that we're attempting to have happen within our building trades. Ideally, it would be wonderful to have a green can for food recycling, but I think that would probably end up being starting out in an individual, homeowner before we went to a community program, and maybe even before we then subsequently go to restaurants. If we're going to tackle this issue with green, food recycling, perhaps we focus just on, for example, the entertainment district where there are many restaurants and the possibility for shared green recycling containers among establishments. But, I'm very pleased with the presentation, since I sort of initiated this by asking Dave, what are you doing about green recycling? And lo and behold, this is what we got back. So thank you, Dave, and keep up the good work, and keep raising the bar as you achieve levels of success.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Steve. I think we really need to move on to our next item. I appreciate your time, Mr. Bennett, and thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And again, I think we are going to spend some more time with it. It was very informative.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioners.
So we have this continuing discussion about the annual work plan. What I did with this particular version, which I think was sent out to everyone, is that I added, if you want to page down to the next page, Sam, basically a schedule. So taking the items that we know we want to address and starting to put them on a schedule can help us be more effective in how we're going to be identifying the next topics for our meeting. And what I wanted to do was really just kind of outlay that and also kind of show the overall structure that we're going to have some recurring items that we definitely have prioritized. And we also have these updates that the city is giving us on their initiatives. So that was kind of the premise of this. This was just based on previous discussions, what I propose, and wanted to get your all's comment on what you think should be included. I know that we talked about maybe having this as an actionable item. However, I mean, at the end of the day, we can have a vote to say that we're all passionate about various different things, but I'm really looking for more input on what we want to do with the rest of this year in terms of the time that we spend in these meetings, because it really is very precious to us, and I want to make certain that they're as effective as possible. So does anyone have any comments? Commissioner Ryan.
Thanks, Chair. I'm supportive. Looks great.
Okay, I mean, from my perspective, I like to see what's coming up. If we can go ahead and Commissioner Steve, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm hearkening back to something that either Mr. Bennett said, and that is, if we're going to make proposals and petitions to the council, we need to get an idea of the budgeting cycle for the city so that we can incorporate within the general plan that you have here dates or meetings that if we're going to petition council to increase the Parks and Recs budget by $300,000 to go all organic, or support the full-time equivalent application for the expanding the brush and green waste pickups, or something where we petition for a sustainability manager, even though we have a green team and they're really doing wonderful things, but whether or not we want to make an argument for a full-time sustainability officer as part of the senior management of the city manager's office, that in order for us to do this, we really need to know the timeline for the budgeting process for the city, and that we should incorporate that within this work plan. So if we're going to make recommendations that have budget impacts, we know when we have to make them and how we have to advocate for them. Because, as one of the speakers, I think it was either Cody or Dave, said, well, we're already into the budgeting process, so ... And so, we really need to balance our petitions to the council to match when they will have an impact. Because otherwise we're sending them stuff and they're going, well, that's great, but our budget, cycle is over and maybe we'll think about it for 2022. If we had an idea of when the cycle was and what the dates were, then we could add our comments prior to those budget presentations and advocate for things that we think are important to the city from an environmental perspective.
Appreciate that. I think it's definitely a good approach to make certain that we are as effective as possible. And I would definitely appreciate, not necessarily in this particular meeting, but perhaps we can be given just an overview of that budget cycle in terms of the schedule and what is involved. If that is something that can be provided to the commission, if I could ask for that, that would be great. What I would love to do with the remaining time on the work plan, though, is really encourage everyone to look at the plan and identify the items that you think we need to include for the rest of the year. So this is, the green text is really, just plan, high fly, it's not, doesn't need to, it's not real until we actually develop our agenda. However, if we have a running perspective, I think it helps us in planning. And if you all can take a look based on the items that you really want to progress for the rest of the year and send me your projected date that you would like to add to future meetings, I'd really appreciate it. Commissioner Bossi.
I'm not sure how general plan got dropped off of today's agenda, but that definitely needs to be on the May and possibly June agenda.
We do have a staff update as part of the general plan.
Right, but there's been some action taken, and unfortunately, it's not an agenda item officially as far as that. So I'm asking that make sure that's something at least in May and probably in June as well.
Good point. Good point. Mr. Stockwell.
Thank you, Chair and members of the commission. I was just going to make a couple points. On this work plan, we certainly can come back and give you a perspective of the budget process. Probably a good time to do that might be at one of the slower meetings, either July or August. And we actually have somebody from the budget office explain that whole process so you understand that.
I don't know that we need a whole presentation on. I don't want to take the time of the council or the commission for that. If there was just some type of overview that can be sent to us, I think that would be effective.
I will send an overview to you of the budget process. The other observations that I have is the ASU Cooler Scottsdale project will actually conclude this fiscal year, and so we don't need to have it continuing on a bi-monthly basis. I do think it's great that you have the sustainability plan in there. I would actually recommend that be a standing item on a monthly basis once we start that work in July. And I thought I'd also add, since you mentioned this other position, that we are planning on redeploying a position to add an additional environmental sustainability leader in the organization. We are planning on that. The city manager did mention it at last night's budget meeting. We're still working out all the details on that, but there's really no need to advocate further for that. I think I'll just, the commission made numerous recommendations to it. I've had numerous presentations where we talked about it. I said, give me some time to work on it. And we worked on it and we're making it happen.
That is awesome news.
Yeah. And I'll add too that at one of those meetings a year and a half or 2 years ago, I talked about how we make decisions about positions and everything. So I try to make sure you guys have as much information as possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yahoo for that.
Wow, hooray.
Yes.
We all do a dance.
Can you maybe provide a little bit more information, Mr. Stockwell? What is that sustainability position and how is that? Has that been discussed in terms of where that resides?
No, we're still working out the details. I've reached out to the Sustainability Cities Network and talked to them about the additional staffing and staffing levels in various cities and pulling that together. Basically, in my discussion with the city manager today, I'm pulling together a memo about that for his review, and then we'll be getting that out to the council before their next budget discussion. We certainly provide it to the commission at your next meeting as well.
That would
Thank
be
you.
awesome. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. We
You're welcome.
appreciate all of the work that you're doing. In terms of the sustainability plan, you said that it was something that is going to start in July.
Correct.
Okay.
So it should be since, and you have an item, one of your upcoming items is talking a little bit about the sustainability plan. I don't want to steal Tim's thunder on that. I just, as you were looking at the schedule,
okay,
I was just kind of identifying that as an issue. And I think also thinking about how you want to have these topics that you've had bi-monthly, you've had these presentations on different areas, energy, green building, solid waste, water, et cetera. To the extent that you want those to continue and have those updates on, a monthly or bi-monthly basis, we're happy to provide that. Our focus for the next 12 to 18 months, starting July, will be focused on getting the sustainability plan done. And then, that'll be a year-long process, and then getting it approved, which we think is going to be about a 6-month process. And so what we're trying to do is really kind of to focus toward getting that down and focusing that effort. We're definitely planning on using the commission as our, community sounding board on that. We're definitely planning on using our Sustainable Scottsdale steering team as the staff sounding board on that. And it's going to take a lot of effort. And so I just want to make sure that we're focusing on that and making sure we have significant time and resources to do that. So thank you.
And just because I'm a little slow, when you talk about year, you have a fiscal year that begins in July. And so this update on the ASU urban heat island study is what you're saying that will end as of May.
Yeah, correct. So we are on a fiscal year basis from July 1st to June 30th. We also have that 3-year intergovernmental agreement, $100,000 each year with ASU. The first year work plan was the Cooler Scottsdale Heat Island study. That will conclude in June. And then the second year will be the sustainability plan development. We've been working on that. And then the third year will be a deeper dive into an area where the Walton Sustainable Solutions group would be most valuable to the city. Could take us farther than what we would be able to do on our own. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Steve.
I'm sorry, I already had my comment when I went Yahoo. That's
okay. Thank you.
Very exciting to hear that the position is being considered.
Definitely. Commissioner Bossi.
Thank you, Chair. As all of us smiling ear to ear about that news. So are you asking, just a clarification, for us to basically take the items where we have our names and opine about the timing of that as far as the calendar for the rest of the year? Is that what would be most helpful?
Yes.
And what you're asking for? Okay.
Definitely. If there is if there is something that you would like to have as a meeting agenda item, I think what I'm asking for people to do, you don't all of those items don't necessarily need to have meeting time to do that. However, what I would like us to be able to do is to kind of identify what those items are so that we can plan out the rest of the year.
Okay. And you want us to do that in by emailing you?
Yes,
a
please.
Suggestion? Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you. And I did one, I noticed since now the rumblings are out there again about a Colorado River allocation reduction. And we have not elevated our drought we have the water conservation, but we don't have, focus on drought management. I'm wondering if we might want to rethink that and put that back up.
My understanding is that we will have in future meetings a discussion. I think that's what you're probably going to say, Mr. Stockwell.
Well, yeah, I was going to say you're going to have Brian Biesmeyer talk about it in June, but the council had a presentation on it and approved the drought management or drought contingency plan at a recent meeting. So City of Scottsdale is definitely taking that seriously. And so I just want to make sure you have that information. Thank you.
So I guess my question related to that is yes, and that's also great that is continuing as we know, but is there things that we need to be on top of, or do we just sort of, do we need to stay apprised of that, because that's pretty serious given the current news right now that we hear it every year and we manage to escape it, but this year might be the hammer.
Yeah, Chair and Commissioner Tammy, I would suggest you go back and listen to the presentation from that. I think it was a council meeting or two ago that Gretchen Baumgartner gave. She actually may be on this call too, so she may be the better one to talk to than I. But I just wanted to jump in there because I just want to make sure you knew that there had been a presentation at the council retreat, also a council action item about it, and we're certainly working on that. Thank you.
Yes, I guess I've just brought up the point that it's not on our main work plan, and I don't know that we since that did get approved. Is there extra things we need to do? But it seems it's such an urgent matter potentially. I just wonder if that should be elevated to in our work plan, just to kind of stay abreast of. We know we have nothing to do as far as adoption. Is there anything we need to be doing as far as helping and addressing any things along the way? I guess is my question, is what I'm trying to clarify is my question.
Thank you. Ms. Baumgartner?
Yeah, I don't want to step out of turn. I did make that presentation back in to the commission back in November, and then to council in March. But we, the executive director of water, Brian Biesmeyer, and I are planning to come to the commission in June and talk more about where the drought is out, and then also some other items with conservation. So I think at that time we can prepare to have a bigger conversation over what we can partner with the commission on.
Thank you so much.
That's what I was trying to get to. Thank you.
Commissioner Walter?
Yeah, no, I just I think that the only thing I'd have on the drought issue is if you look at our the city of Las Vegas, I think they might be handling this a little bit more even aggressively than the city of Phoenix, or city of Scottsdale, I should say. So I think there's additional steps that the city could be taking given the gravity of the situation. The city of Las Vegas, as I read the article, recently banned ornamental turf within the city. So I think there's some questions, and they have a much more robust turf replacement incentive. I think they pay up to $3 a cubic foot, where Scottsdale only pays per square foot, where Scottsdale only pays, I think, $1. So I think there's some things that we could look at doing better in that drought resistant area, or drought emergency area, I guess.
Thank you, Commissioner Walter. I really do want to kind of cut this discussion off. If you have additional items that you would like to raise and include in future meetings, if you could just email those to me, that way we can kind of make certain that we are most effective. If I could go ahead and move on to the next item, which is very important. We have our own Anthony Floyd here to go and discuss the International Green Construction Code and International Energy Conservation Code. He is very interested in, I think, having us make some action on this. So if we could get to that, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Chair Lazar. First of all, I just want to give some context to this. Typically, every 3 years, a new set of building codes are updated through the International Code Council. And these codes cover building code, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, energy, fire, and typically cities do it every 3 years. The city of Scottsdale, we skipped the last cycle. So we adopted the 2015 code, and so we are due to adopt the 2021. So I'm working with Michael Clack, our building official here at the city, and we've established a schedule. I'm focusing on the energy and the green construction code, and Michael Clack is focused on the other members of the code from fire, building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical. So our schedule is to really get the council by this fall. Ideally, we would like to have these codes become effective January 1st of 2022. But there's a whole process and intermediate steps that we have identified. And one of those steps is related to staff review and recommended amendments, and then taking that forward for community input, which would include the Scottsdale Environmental Advisory Commission, but then also the Building Advisory Board. And then also we want to seek some outreach and input from the professional associations, the American Institute of Architects, the National Central Arizona Association of Home Builders, and so forth. And so I've started that process. I've also contacted the utility companies, both APS and SRP, and they're in support of these measures. And what I want to talk more so today is focus down in the bottom there that's highlighted, EV ready charging, because we don't have enough time to talk about everything. And I do want to come back and just give a broad overview and also a broad overview of the International Green Construction Code for the 2021 edition. So if we can proceed to the next slide, Sam. I just have a few slides for you. So this is what we're looking at for the energy code to include. But I want to preface this because there's been a lot of national discussion, and I'm involved with a couple of national technical committees, green building and energy. And there's been several proposals and to change the national code, the national model code that city adopts. It's not currently in the national code right now, but this is why we want to include it as an amendment in our local code adoption. But I just want to give you some backdrop to this. And this is from one of the rationale statements for doing this from ICC, the International Code Council. Electric vehicles have emerged as a key climate strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector, the largest sector of carbon pollution in the US. By 2022, the US market will have a selection of over 100 electric models, including over 20 electric SUVs and pickup trucks. Based on a 2019 survey, 63% of Americans are interested or were interested in EVs, and 31% would consider one for their next vehicle purchase. However, the lack of access to EV charging stations continue to be a critical barrier to EV adoption. More specifically, there are significant financial and logistical hurdles for residents of multifamily dwellings and commercial building tenants to install EV chargers. So just another point I want to make, there are over 40 municipalities around the country that have already adopted EV infrastructure requirements for new residential and commercial buildings, including Atlanta, Seattle, Denver, Boston, Fort Collins, New York, Sedona, Honolulu, Chicago, Flagstaff, and Tucson.
And Phoenix.
And Phoenix as well. And I won't read any more of this, but there's just an overwhelming amount of data that shows where the market is heading, and that studies and reports have been done about the necessary infrastructure that's needed. The reason we're proposing this for the energy code, because the energy code is about reducing energy use, which therefore reduces greenhouse gases. So by having the infrastructure in place for future electric vehicles will help accelerate this process to reduce greenhouse gases. Now, what you see on this slide are three major bullets, and there's a term that's called EV ready, and then there's the EV capable. There are two different definitions for this. For EV ready, we're proposing for new single family homes. This means that all new homes need to have a dedicated 40 amp 240 volt branch circuit. And that could run into a junction box or a receptacle in the garage. It does not require the charging equipment be installed, only that the power is provided and a dedicated circuit. And then for multifamily, it's EV capable. EV capable is just providing the necessary circuit breaker space and electrical panel and running a conduit to the parking area, whether it's surface parking or underground parking, is only providing the infrastructure for that. Doesn't require that wires are pulled or breakers be installed. And the reason for this is because many multifamily buildings are phasing in the EV charging, and they don't know exactly where all of the charging spaces are going to be, except we would require at least a electrical service capacity for 50% of the parking spaces. And that's called level 2 when you do it this way. And then finally, for hotels, the percentage is 25% to be level 2. Sam, if you could go to the final slide, which shows the differences between level 1 to, excuse me, or at least to capable, ready, and then EV installed. And then the bottom graphics show level 1, 2, 3. Level 3 would never be in a building because it's a high voltage, 480 volts. That's going to be more of an isolated highway sometimes, but specific locations, commercial locations for quick charge. Usually in residential and commercial, you're going to see level 2. So this is what I just wanted to discuss, this piece of what we're proposing to amend the energy code. Most likely this is going to appear in a later energy code in the 2024 edition, but we want to be ahead of this. There are many municipalities that are already adopting this, and we want to get in line with that and see this as a strategy to fight greenhouse gases and climate change. So with that, I would say that if you want to at least not return to this discussion again, you can recommend approval of this, but I would like to return and talk about some of the other items, the solar and the recycling that you heard a little bit about already with Dave's presentation. But I would like to come back and talk a little more about the others later. But for now, I'll entertain questions and whatever action the commission would like to take.
So Anthony, do you feel that a recommendation from the commission on a particular item is useful, or is there a certain action that we can do to help?
Well, ultimately, and how we did this for the last code cycle, ultimately, I'm looking for a recommendation for adoption to City Council as a whole package. That's ultimately what I'm looking for. Also, from the Building Advisory Board of Appeals, historically, this is how we've done this. We've always get recommendations from the boards and commissions, the relevant and applicable boards and commissions, and then take it to City Council. We did this back in, I think it was the end of 2016 when we adopted the 2015 codes, including the Green Construction Code. We had a formal recommendation letter that became a part of the council action report that went forward to City Council.
And when is that going to occur?
Right now, we're looking at October timeframe to get to City Council. I want to get the blessings from the commission, the Environmental Advisory Commission, before going to the Building Advisory Board of Appeals. So, because the commission is a little more educated, I would say, in these matters than perhaps the Building Advisory Board. They may not be as aware of green building and energy and greenhouse mitigation. And so your endorsement and recommendation would help us with the Building Advisory Board assessment.
And when are you going to the Building Advisory Board?
I have a meeting with Michael Clack tomorrow morning that we're discussing these matters. And ideally by June, July,
Okay.
most likely July. But I would like to return to the Environmental Advisory Commission with the other matters related to the Energy Code and the Green Construction Code.
Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner Walter?
I may add a question that might, because I would agree with Anthony that a recommendation from our commission on what we believe is a reasonable and, you know, intelligent recommendations around building codes would be positive. I guess my question, I guess a question for the commission and maybe staff would be, would it be appropriate for myself and maybe one other commissioner to come up to work with Anthony to go through some of the recommendations and come up with a letter of support in relationship to the recommendations?
Commissioner Kukulik, are you directing that to me?
I guess to anybody, I guess, how because I feel like if we only meet once a month, and it'd be good to maybe in parallel with this next meeting, work on a letter, understand some of the different recommendations that you have, and then come up with a letter related to those recommendations. Because I don't know, right, the way that I've kind of seen us do it is it takes us a couple meetings sometimes to draft a letter and come up with a consensus.
I love that forward thinking. That is awesome. I would definitely be in support of you starting to develop something. I think it is an evolving thing, and if you have interest, I don't know that if anyone else has any issues with that, but I would definitely be supportive of you starting to work on a recommendation letter. Commissioner Tammy, you had your hand up as well.
Thank you, Chair. I think that would be terrific. And where my head was going, is there any reason for us not to support the adoption of the 2021 code now? But maybe it's more details that Commissioner Kukulik is envisioning, which I mean, I certainly would support that too if we feel it needs more thought. But I was kind of hearing that we just want a general support. But anyway, either way, I'm certainly happy with it. I think that obviously it's something that we would strongly support and are super excited about the progress being made. So if appropriate, I would make a motion to go ahead and support this movement now, but if we feel that we need more detail, then certainly support that as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, you're still kind of fleshing out beyond the EV charging concept, other concepts related to code updates, right? It's just not the EV charging station, right? It's solar ready or solar requirements, lighting advancement, some of those things, right?
Yes, Commissioner Kukulik. In regards to the EV charging, I've shared our proposed provisions to APS and SRP. And I actually heard from SRP last week, and I heard from APS earlier today. They're in support of this, and they're willing to write letters of support, both utility companies. The Solar Ready, I've been talking to Walter, Commissioner Kukulik. We've had a few conversations over the last month, and he provides some valuable input, and I've done some further research. And so we have a recommendation there. Commissioner Kukulik may want to look at it some more. I did send an email to him the other day. So we could flesh that out perhaps a little more.
Appreciate that. Commissioner Steve.
Yeah, I wanted to throw my backing behind Walter's effort. And if Commissioner Kukulik wants a cohort in the drafting of a supportive document that we can bring back to the commission as a whole, I'm more than willing to work with him on that.
Sounds wonderful. And I think that Mr. Floyd also would like to, speak a little bit further and if that's something that we can do for next meeting, hopefully we can work that in. But I think the short, abbreviated version of this, Anthony, is that we are supportive, and we are here to definitely give you a recommendation letter, and we're looking forward to working with you on that. Commissioner David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wanting to understand better what the proposal is here, Anthony. Is it to adopt the International Energy Conservation Code? I mean, as written, or are you pulling out elements from that to update, Scottsdale specific building codes?
Yeah, Commissioner Abrakovic. Yes, there are amendments to this. There is an adopting ordinance, and so I have a draft ordinance for both the IECC and the IGCC with amendments.
So it's not this. It is not just one portion of the code. You're adopting the whole code, or is it?
Yeah, the whole code.
Okay.
The whole code is being adopted. So in our discussion about the EV charging, that's an amendment in the code. The solar ready actually is not an amendment, that's already in the code. And there's just some tweaking here and there in the other provisions. There's the significant portion of the IECC 2021 edition is intact. We're just making some amendments, and we usually do because of our climate zone and because of how we do things in Scottsdale. There's always some amendments. The other codes will have amendments too, the building code, the fire code, the plumbing, the mechanical. It's not unusual. Usually most cities have amendments to their codes to tweak things here and there.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks.
I unless somebody wants to go ahead and second Tammy's motion, it still stands. We can go ahead and basically propose or give our support, but it appears to me like we may just want to go ahead and wait and hear the second portion of this evaluation, and then also work on our letter of recommendation. Commissioner
Chair, I think I
Bossy?
would,
Yeah.
yes, Chair, I think I would just wait until next. I'll pull the motion, and I think we're better just to wait till next month. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay.
Commissioner Lazar?
Yes.
I just want to say that also the IGCC, I can give a quick overview of that too. Unfortunately, the 2021 IGCC was supposed to be out and published by now, but it will be available by the beginning of May. And I already have a draft copy of it, so I already know what's in it, but we need to have the published version before we can make the recommendation on the green construction code.
Got it. Thank you so much. We have limited amount of time. If Mr. Connor, if you have like something to go ahead and offer on the sustainability plan and Scottsdale indicators report, if an update is associated with that, further to Mr. Stockwell's discussion. I'm sorry, Tim, did you hear me?
I can hear you, Natalie, but.
Okay, something must happen.
Chair?
Yes.
I was going to go ahead if Tim didn't, so.
No worries.
I'm sorry, my microphone must have died on me. Essentially, we have been working with ASU to go ahead and pull together a scope of work. We'll be bringing that back to the commission hopefully next month. This will be for the sustainability plan itself. We've also joined ICLEI, which is, let me look at that acronym. It's International Council for Local environmental initiatives, which is also updated through Local Governments for Sustainability in USA. So we have become a member of that group. There is a sustainability planning cohort that is going to begin in the coming months and will run through most of the year. I'm going to make sure that I'm a member of that cohort, and I've already signed into it. Additionally, like I said, we have been working with ASU on the sustainability planning scope. I believe that what we're finding is that the indicators will be something that need to be developed after we've kind of drafted the basic pieces of the sustainability plan, so that we would then know what we were measuring and how it related to the sustainability plan. So in brief, that is really kind of an update, and we'll be back to speak with you all next month.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that. I definitely would encourage all of us to become familiar with our sister cities' sustainability structures so that we can better inform and provide guidance to the city. So I would definitely put that on people's radar to look at some of the plans that have been discussed in our previous meetings, so that we can definitely provide good guidance to our city as they're developing the scope right at the moment of the sustainability plan. The next item here is a discussion of our support for efforts regarding the city's interest in brine solutions for water softeners. And this is something that has been an item that we've discussed in the past for people that maybe haven't been on the commission for a very long time, but Commissioner Steve has been working in the background trying to progress this. And I just wanted to acknowledge that and provide a very quick update on where that's at.
Okay, I'm going to be remarkably brief. The challenge is that the Chief Information Officer for Scottsdale Water, who is overseeing this program, and it was basically going to be inclusions in the water bills, a possible public service announcement. That Chief Information Officer left Scottsdale Water. There was about a 2-month hiatus, and I think that there was a mention in the most recent water bill inclusions, but unfortunately a lot of the momentum for addressing this has sort of passed for our ability to have an impact. Largely, this whole effort was targeted towards people who live here part-time, so that when they go home, they put their water softener on vacation or even turn it off, because most of the water softeners are driven by a time clock rather than a needs assessment. And so the systems recycle every 2 weeks, whether or not you've run a drop of water through this water softener or not. And I'm going to defer to Tim if he has any additional updates, or I think Gretchen was on the line and she may have some additional updates, but that is where the situation sits. So probably the commission will have to kind of try and address this at the beginning of 2022, so that, you know, the word gets out for people to have an impact. The real pity is that we will unfortunately use a lot of water that we don't have over the course of the summer, because people are just going to be unaware of putting their water softeners on vacation hold. You know, sort of like turning your water heater to pilot when you're not using it, so you don't burn a lot of gas. But that's sort of where we sit. It's an unfortunate situation, but Tim, do you have any updates, or Gretchen, do you have any updates?
I don't know that we need to have any updates at this particular time. I do want to get to some of these other items, but I wanted the commission to be aware of this issue. And I think it is an example of how we can start to think about how we can communicate with the public. And to that end, I think that this is just an example that we should be looking at ways to expand our outreach on these types of issues. And I appreciate the update. If we can get to the next item, I would love to. It's the Arbor Day and Earth Day update, and we have Earth Day happening tomorrow. Tammy, if you can kind of provide a little bit further.
Yes, I can, Chair. Thank you. I encourage everyone to go to scottsdale.gov/sustainable/Scottsdale, and you'll see what we still have left for the month. The staff has been doing an amazing job. Tim did a terrific job of facilitating the green team, and there's been things going on all month. Anthony organized 2 fantastic green building series. The first one was Simple Solutions. You've got to watch it. Dory Morales, founder and publisher of Green Living magazine, gave so many amazing ideas of simple solutions, things that we can do every single day in our lives to green up our worlds. And we have a I guess you call it contest. We have an encouragement going on for people to get on and post your simple solution that you're doing in your life. And then we're giving away trees at the farmers market in Old Town Scottsdale on Saturday morning on my birthday. We'll be down there giving away trees, and I encourage you to come down. And we'll also people can share their simple solution that day, and also win a tree. So if you'll look on that site I just said, scottsdale.gov/sustainable-Scottsdale, there's instructions of how to post your ideas or what you're doing, simple solutions. Also tomorrow all day long, there will be all kinds of great content on channel 11. There's been content going on every Friday. There's been activities. There's the Arbor Day activities. This Parks Department has planted, who said 51 trees for 51 Earth Day, but there's over 80 trees, I believe, that's been planted. And there's been a interview with Anthony and the mayor, which is terrific. It's also be airing, it has aired and will be airing again tomorrow. The library has been doing wonderful programs. There's been the citizen science events, of course, and we've been encouraging people to go to the farmers market. There's been encouragement for people to go to the monarch butterfly locations. There's a great waste audit that has gone on, and on May 1st there will be a electronics recycling. There have been, let's see, what else? What am I missing, Tim and Steve? The waste, I said the waste audit. If you have a chance to tune in to channel 11 tomorrow or record any of it, you'll see all kinds of amazing things. Oh, the other green building event that Anthony organized was the very popular gardening program, always well received. And if you have any aspirations of having a garden this year, tune in, because there's so many great ideas. So really the idea was to showcase all the great things that the city's doing already, and to tie it all in and celebrate it through the month of April. And I think everyone's done a fantastic job in doing that and showcasing what has been going on here in our own city.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I appreciate that. If we could go ahead and get through staff updates real quick. We didn't get to do it last time. So I think, Tim, you have a general update.
Yes, Chair and members of the commission. There's a couple of things. First of all, we need to have a discussion. The mayor is planning to attend the next meeting, and we have not decided whether or not we're going hybrid or if we're going to go with remote. At this point, it may be best to still stay remote. The hybrid meetings are still being formalized, and I would hate to have the mayor attend something that is somewhat still under development until we have those down a little bit better. The other thing that I was asked to present on was the sustainability, or excuse me, the general plan update of what's going on. And Erin Pro is also on the line today. She could go further into this, but here's the schedule that we were provided with. Last night, the City Council held a work study session. On the 28th, they're doing a Planning Commission remote hearing. On Tuesday, May the 4th, City Council will do another work study session. On Wednesday, the 12th, the Planning Commissions will make a recommendation to the City Council. And on June the 8th, if possible, the council will hopefully adopt the hearing or have an adoption hearing. The target is being that we need to get it on a ballot for November the 21st. So there needs to be advanced.
We've lost you again, Mr. Connor.
I will get them to either Adam Yaron or to Erin Perot if we need to get some update. The information that was submitted by this commission was included in a package that went to the first work study session with the City Council. So they have received your input, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. Again, if I could work with the chair and maybe the vice chair on what we want to do with the mayor and what kind of things we're hoping to receive from him. We have sent a message over to the chief of staff of the mayor's office, and we're looking to see what her response is. I think she's going to be speaking with the mayor probably in the next day or so and see what his expectations might be. So
okay, thank you.
That's all I have at this point. Thank you.
In terms of the general plan, there is, from my understanding, a version that is being circulated. Is that correct?
That is correct. I believe it's out on the website. I have a link on this document that was provided to me by Adam. I can send that link out to the commission.
That would be great. My understanding is that some of our recommendations were incorporated, but some were not. Most principally, I think that's important to us, the premise of how they have addressed climate action. I'm not certain that it has been, really well received. Is that correct?
I have not been privy to those discussions. Erin, do you have some update with that?
Aaron, commission members, I do have an update for you. They have not added an overt climate action goal. In part of their discussions, they feel like a number of items that would be covered under such a goal are already covered by a number of different elements and goals and policies in those elements. Including emission and air quality and extreme heat, water and drought, energy and wildfire and extreme heat types of issues from a safety standpoint as well. A number of those goals and policies are state required already and are state required to be in particular elements as well. However, most of the recommendations that you made based on Elisa McMahon's suggestions that were in your letter have been included in the document. Also, the qualifier words that you wanted removed have been removed to date. The only other item that they didn't include, they went on the expert advice of the water resources staff, and they did not repopulate the plan with the gray water text that you were looking for them to do. So in terms of the implementation items, they are reflecting a lot of what you've talked about tonight in terms of heat island mitigation plan, a climate action sustainability and resiliency plan, not knowing exactly all that you're going to cover in the sustainability plan. Those are in the implementation chapter of the plan as well. So hopefully that helps give you an idea. They have been in the last couple of weeks receiving some communication from different citizens asking for a climate action goal, and there's still time for them to incorporate that into the document. So I would say stay tuned for now, and then we could give you an update at next month's meeting because they will be done their final work study session on the plan by then. Thank you.
Thank you. I do think that we are definitely still in support of having a climate action goal. I think that we will continue to lobby for it. And if we can make certain that if anybody right at the moment, you can act as a citizen in the meantime before we can do any further work, I would encourage all of our commissioners to provide as much guidance as possible on this matter. If there are some additional updates that we can get through.
Chair
Anthony?
Lazar, I pass. I pass.
Okay. Mr. Stockwell?
Chair, members of the commission, the one thing that I did want to let you know about is that last night's council meeting, the council did unanimously on the consent agenda authorize the city's participation in the Arizona Thrives Alliance, which is an effort that the Nature Conservancy recently launched. This effort came up pretty quickly. We noted that it came up too quickly to get this in front of the commission first, but the mayor had already signed on to the participation as part of his role on the Maricopa Association of Governments Regional Council, and really wanted to get the full council support in participating in this effort. So what I will do, it was certainly on council's agenda for last night, but I'll also ask Sam to share this information with the full commission so you are aware of that effort and the commitment that the council made last night.
Thanks so much.
That was around clean air promotion, clean energy acceleration, and a number of other issues.
All right. Well, we look forward to it. Commissioner Bossi, do you have something quick to add?
Yeah, real quick. Just I'm on the Valley Leadership Arizona Thrives Impact Committee. If FYI, just to note that connection.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Our last item here is we have to populate our agenda. If there are items that we want to make certain we include for next meeting, if anyone wants to speak up, add some items. Ms. Bossi?
Just want to make sure, even up maybe too late, general plan needed to be on tonight. Make sure it's on there in case there's anything else, given that we're to the 11th hour here. I think with the mayor coming, we don't have a whole lot of extra time, probably.
Do we have the issue urban heat island study update? Will that be the last update that we get?
Chair Crispin Lazar, I'm not sure it will be the final update, but it will definitely be one of the most recent ones of what they've concluded so far. We'll probably be back in June to wrap it up completely. So I think that it would be a good idea to have them come in May and then get your feedback, and then they can go ahead and retreat back to their offices and to try to wrap things up for us.
Got it. And then something that is important to me, I think, is the premise of public outreach. I know that we've had discussions on Sustainable Scottsdale as a portal for communicating to the public. Every time I look at it, it seems to be kind of old and dated, and wanted to discuss, and I think people have time to think about some additional approaches that this commission can promote to reach out to the public in terms of sustainability and environmental issues. That is really a discussion that I think needs to occur, and that was, I think, something that I would love to add to the agenda for next month. Commissioner Steve?
Yes, in support of that, Chair, it would be interesting to talk with a chief information officer for the city about public service announcements that could be created, or whether there's a budget for public service announcements that talk to sustainability and environmental stewardship. If we're going to do outreach, if we just rely on the Sustainable Scottsdale platform, people are going to have to find us. And if we want to change the mentality of the citizens, we have to reach out and contact them. And using public service announcements whether on television or social media or what have you, might be a very viable way of raising the visibility of environmental issues within the broader public.
Appreciate that. I think all of us should be thinking about different ways to do that. And I think at our next meeting, we can get a little bit further into it, but we're really late right at the moment. It is 7:48. Mr. Stockwell, do you have something specific to that
Yes.
agenda item?
Chair and members of the City Council, I think it's absolutely critical that you all take a look at the city's social media platforms and see that every day we are publishing information about environmental, sustainable, specific information. And we understand this 100%, but I think the commission also should remember that the commission is not you are a recommending advisory body. So we can update you, we can voluntarily bring this information to you and update it, and you can make recommendations on it. But I'm really concerned about the language about the commission doing things itself. And so I would also advise, perhaps if necessary, but perhaps everybody can do this on their own, to go and look back at the purpose and responsibilities of the commission that have been assigned by the City Council. I just want to make sure that's clear, because there have been a number of points during the meeting where it doesn't seem that the commission's purpose is really at the forefront and being taken into consideration, but I respect it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I really do think we need to go ahead and wrap this up. It's been a long meeting, and please go ahead and take that to heart. Mr. Stockwell's comments. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time tonight. I appreciate everyone participating. If there are any other items, if we can maybe move for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
So I think we have Mr. Kukulik has identified a move to adjourn, and I think we had, I'm not certain who seconded. I'm sorry, that would think it was Schlosser. If we could go ahead and have a vote.
Okay, sure. I don't think that adjournment necessarily needs
Okay.
a vote. I think
Okay,
it's
great.
fine by just going ahead and taking a movement.
Okay, then we adjourn. It is unanimous. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crispin.
Thank you.